Meltem, hi. So good to be here with you today.
Same, Renee. It's been about, I think, a year and some months since I've seen you. Just saying the last time I saw you, we were dancing in person, which hasn't happened in a long time.
It's events like this that make you really remember and miss the good old days. So yeah, hopefully we can all go back to that soon. The conferences in
Fingers
this
crossed.
space, yeah, are some of the best perks of working in this space, right?
Yeah, so many great people. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. I think it's really exciting to have such a broad, diverse, multinational audience joining us and speakers as well. And I'm excited to have a chat with you, Renee. I feel like our conversations are always sort of meandering, very philosophical discussions, but we'll try to stay focused on what's happening in Bitcoin and the Celo ecosystem. And in particular, I know I was keen to talk about ESG. The E side, obviously, or the environment's getting talked about a lot, but the S for social equity and the G for governance, I think, are talked about less, but some really cool stuff happening in the crypto space there.
Yeah, and you're in the right place. And I mean, I every time I chat with you, I learn something. So I'm excited for our chat here. And maybe for folks who when they saw your tweet earlier thought that ESG is some new form, maybe some new token that's going live. Give us a little bit
They're like
more.
they're on Uniswap searching for
Exactly that.
ESG.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I mean, someone is probably launching one as we speak to kind of cash in on this. But maybe let's take a step back from the hype and let's go back to some of those core fundamentals. And you've been in the space for a really long time. You've helped set up the Digital Currency Group, another acronym there, DCG,
Yeah.
And now running Coinshares. You're intact with a lot of institutional investors, obviously, that are increasingly coming into the space. And maybe give us some context for what ESG means to them and how their view on the space has been changing and evolving.
Yeah, I think that's a great starting point, Renee, and thank you. So, I've been in this space for 7 years. So the fact that that's considered a long time just speaks to how young and nascent this industry still is. And I think what's been amazing to observe, and maybe I'll just talk about the broader macro context really, really quickly. A lot of people, when they talk about the macro context, are really focused on inflation and monetary debasement. I think that's been one of the primary topics of conversation in context of the global pandemic. But the other aspect that people are missing sometimes, I think, is ESG investing, or the ESG impact of the financial services sector is becoming a very important topic. Just this week, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen here in the United States appointed the first ever ESG focused chair within her department. And the Biden administration in the US has stated they're going to be much more aggressive on implementing environmental, social, and governance mandates for financial services firms. I think in addition, one trend we track closely at Coinshares, we have 5 billion in assets under management, and we trade tens of billions in volume every year using our market infrastructure. But on the product side, our products today are primarily offered throughout Europe. Coinshares is publicly listed. We trade in Europe. And one trend we've observed in Europe, which has been a leader in the ESG space, is fully over 10% of assets under management in Europe are in ESG focused investment products. That is set to grow to 30% in the next 5 years. So as we just look at how people are choosing to allocate money, how people are thinking about the relationship between their investments and what they want to see happen in the world, that link, I think, is becoming more clear. And the final piece I'll just add that's very important to me individually as an angel investor, a venture investor, and someone working in a publicly listed company is, your cap table really is a reflection of who you want to empower in the world and who you want to enrich. And what I think is so amazing about what's happening in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, whether it's Bitcoin or other protocols or it's Celo, is for the first time, we're not just offering Bitcoin to the wealthiest people in the world or the wealthiest clients. Typically, financial innovation, new technology has only been accessible to people who have access to deal flow or to accredited investors or people who have a banker. But what I think is so exciting about what's happening here is Bitcoin is accessible to anyone who has an internet connection and a phone, right? And you're making it accessible to anyone with a feature phone, not even a smartphone. So I think the equality of access and opportunity in the crypto space really profound. And as we saw, I think projects like Uniswap and others who are airdropping tokens on users, and these airdrops are now, worth quite a bit of money. It's really amazing to see how distributing tokens in these networks can really have a fascinating impact on the distribution of assets, but also on bringing new people into these ecosystems. And so I think we're still at the very early stages of beginning to understand, the impact that open public blockchain networks can have on ESG. The environment side is something we're working on actively. Square just dropped a great paper today about how Bitcoin can actually drive towards a more resilient and more renewable energy economy. That's something we've been writing about for years and years at Coinshares as well. And I think on the governance side, we're definitely seeing some interesting new models for governance, collective investments, DAOs, LAOs, like you name it. There's so many cool things happening. But in terms of equality of access, I think people often just think about that in terms of, well, who has assets. I think it's much broader than that. There are now so many ways to earn crypto. There's so many ways to get access through different types of technology. I have a smartphone, but most of the world's population, only 50% of the world's population is even online today, right? And the majority of those aren't necessarily using a smartphone. So there's all of these different and interesting ways. I think that crypto is really starting to move beyond where Bitcoin started, which was with nerds on the internet, myself included, and starting to extend into all of these different communities and ecosystems, which to me is what's so exciting. Because I'm from Turkey originally, like my family came from nothing. So to think about, my grandpa who uses a feature phone being able to interact with Bitcoin is just really exciting.
You touched on so many really good things here. Let me dive a little bit. Yeah, there's like boom. The one thing that I want to dive a little deeper, and that's actually tied to some announcements happening at Kuneco today. Even we're seeing sort of this transition now, and I think Robert in his talk just now touched on this as well, right? Where assets are moving sort of among different ecosystem chains, right? And so it's really exciting to think about the role that Celo can play in accelerating the adoption of, for example, Bitcoin, right? Not just Celo native assets. And so when I think about what the community is building to make this accessible even on feature phones, but even like touching on just the 6 billion smartphone subscribers, right? That today don't really have a chance to trustlessly hold Bitcoin or other digital assets. That's really a game changer. And so we'll have an announcement later today from Tokensoft that's basically going live with Red Bitcoin and a few other assets on Celo, which is super exciting. And then actually at the last Kuneco, we had Matt from Keep present TBTC. And so they're actively working on launching TBTC on Celo later this year. And I think there's a CKeep airdrop coming soon to the Celo community. So stay tuned for that. But look, I think one thing that I was going to ask you, kind of related, you've 7 years is a long time in this space, and it does feel like
I feel old, Renee. I'm only in my mid-30s, but I feel like a crypto grandma. It's like I've lived the same thing too many times.
I mean, every day in this space is like a month in like regular tech, and then a month in regular tech is like a year in like sort of the
it's like a decade in banking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, the things you just kind of shared. I was like, oh, I haven't checked the news today, and I mean, there's like so much happening every day. It's pretty phenomenal. But you see a lot of stuff, and I think whenever I chat with you, I feel like you have a good pulse on things. Maybe to kind of ask you here or put you on the spot, what are in your opinion, currently the most overhyped or overrated, and what are the most underhyped, underrated things that you see in crypto?
Sure. In terms of overhyped, I think one of the things that's 100% overhyped is this idea that layer one blockchains will be standalone silos, which you've already alluded to. I think the future, and Rob just chatted about this as well, and I think Rob also has great insights. We co-invest. We're on a lot of cap tables together, so we share a similar philosophy here. But I think this idea of Bitcoin or Ethereum, Bitcoin or something else is a little bit outdated. I think it's Bitcoin and, right? Mm-hmm. And I think one of the exciting things is we see a lot more innovation happening in the cross-chain space. And that's not just layer one, layer two. So we have Bitcoin and Lightning, and the Lightning ecosystem is growing rapidly. But it's also Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? There's now billions of dollars of Bitcoin that's compatible with Ethereum, whether it's through Coinsoft's wrapping process or through Keep's process of minting TBTC, which is decentralized and doesn't have a centralized custodian, but relies on a network of validators and stakers. And now we also have more cross-chain compatibility across various layer ones. Those layer ones all are developing and building and bridging into their own layer twos. So I'm very excited to see the introduction of more cross-chain tooling, starting with wallets. So XDeFi is launching on top of Thorchain. Liquality is a browser plugin spinning out of Consensus that's also a cross-chain wallet. Then once you have a wallet that allows people to interact with assets cross-chain, right? Then you can start to build really interesting liquidity pooling solutions cross-chain, liquid staking derivatives that operate cross-chain. And what you start to get to, which I think is so interesting, is when people are choosing what asset to hold, right? Today, I hold Bitcoin, I hold Ether, and I hold USDC. And I do very different things with all of those different assets. But I don't necessarily, right now I have different infrastructure for each, but in an ideal world, I'd have sort of a seamless user experience. And I think that's so cool about what Celo is doing, really leading the way and making that type of interoperability more accessible to a larger audience, because I can't really explain to my grandfather, as I mentioned, who's using his feature phone, like, I'm not going to really explain to him how to use like 6 different wallets and then how to transfer from one chain to, like, that's complex. So I think abstracting out the underlying complexity is just such an exciting area. And there's so many interesting ways that people are doing it in really unique user communities as well. So I'm just really excited. I don't really care about number go up. I don't need Bitcoin to be $1 billion. I care about users go up. I want to see billions of people using Bitcoin, not just buying it, but earning it, right? So I think there's this really exciting opportunity here. And I love everything happening in this space. I'll mention one company quickly for people who are listening. There's a great company called Stackwork, STAKWORK, Stackwork, that allows you to earn Bitcoin for small tasks. So it's like a mechanical Turk built on top of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So if people want to earn Bitcoin and not buy it, like, definitely recommend Stackwork. And it's built on top of Lightning. So that's pretty awesome. Cool sort of concept.
I think that's, especially given still sort of the complexities around, on and off ramps and the ability to people actually, get access to digital assets, right? We have an exciting company in the Celo ecosystem, Corsali, who's doing something similar, just letting people do micro work and earn crypto like natively on their phone, right? And that's the future, right? I think that really we're moving sort of into a truly native digital economy. And I have some news for you as well. While we were backstage kind of getting ready for this, James Prestwich on the tech stage actually announced Optics, which is an interoperability protocol that will bridge between Celo and Ethereum. So check that out when you get a chance. But yeah,
I was one of James's first investors at Suma. So
there you
I'm
go.
happy
there you
to
go.
see
You're
that
part of the family.
I am. It's all like one big family. And I see Mason from Coinsoft is coming on soon as well. I'm also one of Mason's investors. So, there's a great group of people who I think all share just such a similar vision and similar ideology in terms of how they build. And I'm just here to be helpful, facilitate, and try to help put the pieces together. That's it.
Beautiful. Well, it was great to kind of catch up, and hopefully next time in person again.
I know we're overdue, but we have to dance. So bring your best dance moves, Renee. I need to start practicing.
Sounds good. Bye, Meltem.
Thanks for having me.